Hello again, this is Jim Ave, and in this presentation I'm going to discuss the professional portfolio assignments for Kinesiology 792C, Practicum and Athletic Training, Part 1. So as you can see on the screen, I'm in Appendix B of the syllabus. A couple other documents that you should have open are going to be the portfolio template that I have here on the screen, and then the 792 KIN 792C Professional Portfolio Assessment Rubric. Both of those, all these documents can be found in the course documents folder in our class. So here I am in a class, and here's the course documents. So that's where you want to get these documents. All right, so I'm going to go back to the syllabus, and during this class and actually in the next class in the spring, you'll be developing total of 6, but 5 professional portfolios, and then in the last assignment in the spring class is the final professional portfolio, where you put all of the portfolios together in one final portfolio. But we'll talk about that in the spring. You don't have to worry about that now. So what you will do, or what's the purpose of this particular assignment, is to develop a greater understanding of the domains of athletic training via I'm reading this from the first sentence there underneath the professional portfolios bolded material. Via the BOC Standards of Professional Practice. And this assignment will give you the opportunity to develop a professional portfolio that hopefully you can use in future interviews, performance evaluations, and many other endeavors. As you can see in the schedule, you'll do one portfolio per month, describing how you meet a particular BOC Standards of Professional Practice. And so if we scroll up to our course schedule, you'll see that I have in the schedule what you're going to plan. So in the first professional portfolio, pretty much in all the portfolios, you're going to do one BOC Code of Professional Responsibilities and one BOC practice standard. When you read this document, you'll see that there's 2 different ones. Okay, so you're just doing one. I'm just going to use code for the BOC Code of Professional Responsibilities, and then I'm going to use standards for the practice standards. So you do one code and one standard for each of your portfolio. So for portfolio 1, you do code 1 and standard 1. For the second portfolio, you'll do code 2 and standard 2. And then for the third professional portfolio, you'll do code 3 and standard 3. All right. So what are you going to do in there? So here's our directions. And then I think what I'll do is I'll go through each one of the parts of the assignment using the template. So let's go over to that template. So you're going to have a title page, and I've already given you the title page. All you have to do is put the portfolio number, 1, 2, or 3, your name, the date that it's due, and then my name here, an instructor. So pretty straightforward since this is a Word document. Table of contents. So the introduction for the portfolio starts on page 2. Then the next section, which is going to be the summaries, should start on probably page 3. Then the next section, which is artifacts, is probably going to be on page 4. So whatever page number it's actually on, that's what you want to put here in the table of contents. And obviously the table of contents is going to grow throughout our class. Okay, so what I would like you to start your professional portfolio is an introduction to yourself. Provide me your name, where you live, if you want to put your address, your email, phone number, any of that stuff that you want to put on about you to introduce yourself to others. Or what certifications do you have? Where did you go to undergrad? What kind of professional experience have you had? Anything that you want to include about yourself that you would like to introduce yourself in a professional manner. Maybe if you want to put hobbies about yourself. If you have family, if you have kids, what about that? That's really up to you. You won't get graded on your introduction at all. It's just it gives me a little bit of understanding of who you are. If you want to include a picture, include it. You don't have to. That's really up to you. Again, the introduction, as it says in the directions, it's really just to provide some information about yourself. Then starting on a brand new page, you're going to provide a summary. It's also called an executive summary for the Code of Professional Responsibility. Again, I'm going to call it code for code number 1. And then you're also going to provide a summary of the BOC Code of Practice Standard number 1. Now, I've already provided the section. These are called section titles. These things up here, they're already in APA formatting for you. So you can just leave those where they're at and just start writing your summary here. Speaking of APA, here in our class, I have an APA help document. And what that document is, it's an example of a paper that's written in APA that gives helps for section titles, like I was just showing how to cite within a paper, in the reference page, and other various things following APA. You're responsible for learning APA and following APA. I use this document when students ask me questions about APA. I go to that first. If I can't find an answer there, then I go to the APA manual, which each one of you should have bought by now. All right, back to our assignment. So, what is an executive summary? It is just giving somebody a big idea of what something means. So for our assignment, what does that Code of Professional Responsibility 1 mean? You can state the actual code there. If you do that, if you're going to go word for word straight from the book, make sure you quote it and cite it following APA. You don't necessarily have to, but the main thing that you want to do is you want to provide a summary of what that means. You want to explain what the code means so a non-athletic trainer has a good understanding of it. So think about explaining it to somebody who has no understanding of what an athletic trainer does. It's not even involved in athletics, not involved in medicine in any way at all. And so you're trying to explain what the code and the practice standard means so somebody that has no background can understand it. But it has to be very short, because this entire section should be 1 to 2 paragraphs max. So that's 1 paragraph for the code, 1 paragraph for the standard. I'll allow you to do 2 paragraphs for each one. That's a little bit long. The critical thing is that you'll see in the codes of professional responsibilities, there are sub-codes or sub-points. I do not want you to explain what each of the sub-points means. I want you to explain what the code means as a whole. And same with the practice standard. Practice standard doesn't have the sub-points. It just has one thing. So I want you to explain the practice standard so that a non-athletic trainer can understand it. And this takes some practice doing. Some will ask or say, how come you just don't provide us examples of previous work? Main reason why I don't do that, I don't want you guys just to copy and paste what everybody else has done. That's not learning. That's just copying and pasting. And I have this paragraph in every section. I'm not going to repeat it. So just remember to indent each new paragraph like I've done here, and double space the body of your document. Now, I have a video in the orientation class that talks about paragraph spacing in Microsoft Word. I'm going to go ahead and show you this again. I right-clicked on my mouse, click paragraph, and you want the line spacing to be doubled. You want the before and after to be at 0. For whatever reason, the default is at 10 point like that. I just hate the spacing when it does that, so just make it double spacing, 0 and 0. Do that at the very beginning of your document so you don't have to go back and change it. That's how I want all papers in my classes, and I'm pretty much sure every other class in the program. That's what this is talking about right here. Now the other thing is you should support your thoughts and information with citations. I use a term called evidence-based academics. We've talked about this in the summer classes, but there's some new students in this class. What I mean by evidence-based academics is just like when we practice evidence-based medicine or evidence-based practice, we need to use the evidence from research to make our clinical decisions. And it's the same thing when we're writing papers in classes. We need to use the evidence to support what we think about things and write about things. So what is our evidence in academics? Our evidence in academics is journal articles such as the Journal of Athletic Training or other journal articles like that in the physical therapy and the medicine and all the different areas that has used research to find what works best. And so you need to support your thoughts and information with citations throughout this portfolio. All right, our next section is the artifact section. So what you are required to do is find evidence, evidence-based academics evidence, which I'm calling an artifact, that you have actually satisfied code number 1, and then another artifact that shows that you have mastered practice standard number 1. Okay, so the actual artifact does not go here. It doesn't go in this section. It's going to go in the, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the end of your document, of this document, into the appendix, because the artifact should be a pretty big piece. It could be a picture, it can be injury reports, it can be a letter from a doctor, it can be I already said, like, some students in the past have taken pictures of them doing something that would show that they have mastered that particular standard or code. Where am I? Okay, so then, in the actual, this artifact section, what you're going to do is you're going to explain each artifact. You should have 2, one for each. One for the code, one for the standard. You explain each artifact, why you selected the artifacts, and the main part I want you to focus on is explain in clear detail how the artifacts, I'm going to use the term demonstrate that you have mastered the code and practice standard. What about that particular artifact for you shows that you have satisfied the code and then the practice standard. So you should have, this section should be at least 2 to 3 pages. So if you think about this way, so you have 1 to 1.5 pages explaining how the artifact meets the professional code, the code of professional responsibilities, number 1. Then another page and a half, why that particular artifact that you chose meets the practice standard 1. Okay, that's the artifact section. The next section is the reflection section. In this section, you're going to discuss how you have improved in Code 1 and Practice 1 since you've been an athletic training student. Now, some students, you were just an athletic training student, you don't have a lot of experience yet. But I want you to think back when you first began as an athletic training student. Some of you, this could be 5 years ago, some of this could have been a couple years ago. Think about the specifics of that code and that standard, and how have you improved in that area since you were a student. And that's about 2 to 3 paragraphs. So about a paragraph and a half to 2 paragraphs per. So you want to do. I'm a logical thinking person, so to me it makes sense. Address the code number 1 first, how you've gotten better in code number 1, then how you've improved in practice standard number 1. That's 2 to 3 paragraphs for that section. Then the next section is what plan do you have to continue to improve and grow in code 1 and standard 1. Again, 3 to 4 paragraphs here. So 2 paragraphs on how you can improve on code 1, and 2 paragraphs on how you can improve and grow on standard 1. Then the next section is to discuss what you do well, which I call strengths, in code 1, and what you do well in practice 1. I don't want you to focus on the things that you're not good at. And that's true in the growing and improving area. I want you to focus on the things that you do well on. We talked about this in our athletic training teaching class. We talked about strengths-based education. If you don't remember that, go back to the material about that and read up about that again. What are your strengths? What do you do? What naturally do you do well? How can you develop those strengths? You can incorporate the strengths and the continuing growing and improving all together. So you can have 2 to 3 paragraphs on code 1. Here's my strengths, and here's how I can continue to grow and improve in that area. And these are the steps I can take to get better at code 1, and do the same thing with the practice standard 1. Okay. Along with this, you can discuss any professional development you have done in that particular area. This includes reading, research, collaboration with other professionals, workshops attended, etc., within their reflection. Remember to explain what you have learned from these experiences and how the information is beneficial and has caused you to improve. All this paragraph can be weaved in to what's in the first paragraph. Okay, that's not an additional information that can be weaved in to that material. Right after that, you're going to include your courage and calling reflection, which I'll talk about in another lecture. So that's part of your reflection section. For your first portfolio, you won't have this section. This is for your second portfolio, so you can just eliminate all this stuff for your first portfolio. But in your second portfolio, you'll keep the material from standard, or for the first portfolio, just continue to grow this portfolio. You'll have the material for the code 2 and practice standard 2. You have artifacts for code 2 and standard 2. You have reflections for 2, code and standard 2. And I forgot to change that to a 3. And then you'll do, on your last portfolio for this semester, you'll do the same thing. You'll have a summary for code 3 and practice standard 3, and then your artifacts for code 3 and practice standard 3, and then your reflections for all that. For all of your portfolios, you will have a reference page. If you're noticing, each one of these sections of your paper are starting on a brand new page. So that's how your portfolio should also be. So you should include, whatever you cited in the paper, and this is true for every single paper in the program, what you've cited in your paper, which you should be citing quite a bit, should also be included in the reference page. Do not, if you have stuff in a reference page is not in the paper, that's plagiarism. So the minimum things that you should be citing in the portfolios is the BOC practice standard document and the courage and calling text. And here's an example of how you should cite the courage and calling text in the reference page. You can just copy and you can just get rid of all this stuff and keep that in there. Refer to that APA document for more information about how to use the format for the reference page. And I said earlier, all the artifacts should be in the appendix. So it makes sense to me for your first portfolio, you may have Appendix A for the Code 1 artifacts, and you may have an Appendix B for the Standard 1 artifact. And inside when you're discussing an artifact, I would say here, what you'll want to do is the artifact selected for to demonstrate I have mastered the BOC Code of Professional Responsibility 1 is ABC document. Then you would put Appendix A. And what that tells the reader is that that's where that artifact is located. And then for your next artifacts, it would be Artifact B. So make sure you do that when you're in the body of the paper. One thing you'll notice here, if there is no artifact included, you automatically lose 40 points for this part of the assignment. Okay, that if you don't have the artifact, who cares what you wrote? You don't have an artifact, so you don't get any points for that particular part of the assignment. Now this is a lot, and I got one other thing I got to briefly cover. Here's the rubric. A rubric is how I'll grade you on this assignment. You'll see that the Practice Standards Code of Professional Responsibility description is worth 5 points. The artifact section is worth 40 points. The reflection section is worth 40 points. How the writing section and organization of your portfolio is worth 10 points. And APA style and document format is worth 5 points. So I'll use this. How I'll grade it is I'll say that you did excellent on this. I'll highlight it and I'll give you points. I'll say you didn't do all that great over here. And so then that's 40 points. You did like 25. Yeah, and I'll give you some feedback. Not very good. I'll give you more feedback than that, but it's just an example. Then you have a final point value here. As a reminder, in these assignments, you have to earn an 82% or greater on all 3 portfolios in order to pass this course, in order to earn a credit in this course. So do well on these assignments. If you have questions, please ask in the Q&A forum. If we need to talk on the phone, or if you're local, come to my office. I'm here to help. I'll read rough drafts as long as I have enough time. I'll send them to me Saturday before they're due. Be a little bit more ahead of the game. Do a little bit every single day. At the beginning of this class, what I suggest that you do is work on the introduction page. Start working that. Get that done by the end of week 1. Then by the end of week 2, at least find an artifact. Explain what this code and standards mean, so you can find an artifact. And then get the artifact and start drafting on how the artifact demonstrates your mastery of the code and standard. Then start working on your reflection. If you do a little bit each time, each day and each week, you'll be successful in this assignment. I look forward to reading your portfolios. through this semester and even through the spring. Um, and again, ask questions if you need help.